All right, guys, this is the Jeskidding show, and this week's topic is talking about outrage culture, and tied into that is, has black and white thinking gone mad? We're going to figure it out. As I said, this is Jeskidding podcast where sometimes I say things that are inappropriate, and I'm like, I'm just kidding. And then other times I say things and you're like, just kidding. Maybe that was pretty smart, but maybe not. All right, I'm here with Austin, aka Redneck Rebel, often-time guest, Amazingness. Hi, Austin, how are you?
What's up? All
right, cool. And what are we talking about today? Oh, outrage culture. Things to be mad at. Are you mad at anything today, Austin?
Not currently.
Really? You're not like, there's nothing in the universe that's sort of like saying, oh my God, I need to pick this cause and be angry about it? Because for me, I feel like I'm being pulled into a vortex of other people's disgust and anger at every second. Do you not at least feel that pull from other people?
There's not really a whole lot of things in the world that I feel so strongly about that I just have to freak out.
Well, fair.
I usually find some reasonable middle ground that I just sit on and do that.
That's fair. I mean, you're obviously a very balanced person, so you're going to be sort of a good sort of foil for what I'm going to talk about today, which is, like I said, outrage culture. I find, and at least you have observed this, I find that every single person that I know gets angry about everything that happens in the world. And I'm going to take, for instance, we had this week's Game of Thrones. And Game of Thrones is a very popular show. I know Austin doesn't watch it, but you certainly heard about, you know, the outrage over what happened. There's no way you could avoid it. And people sort of took a fictional character and a fictional storyline, hated it so much that they signed 1 million petitions for them to redo the final season of the show. Now, why is this important? I mean, it's just a television show. Why are you getting all offended by a television show? It's important because people have taken it upon themselves to get on these outrage trains to try to derail actual things that people have spent money and time on in the world. And that's really kind of disturbing, that people feel the need to not only get angry about something, but also feel like they need to actually have it change for them. Have you experienced this, Austin?
Yeah, I think it's reasonable to be upset and maybe not pleased. Like, just with the Game of Thrones reference, like you said, I've never seen it, so I don't really have any feelings towards it, but I can understand being disappointed because apparently people's beef is that however the characters ended up acting or the things that they did doesn't fit what they would actually do.
Right.
And, I mean, I don't know the validity of it, but I understand being disappointed. But like, I think that some people are taking things to a level that I would probably consider not even reasonable.
I want to comment on that. Quick side note, we do broadcast this live on Twitch, and sometimes I do respond to comments in the chat room. We have somebody in there named No Problemo, who's from Brazil, who just wants somebody to talk to him. So, hello, No Problemo. It's like, the internet is so funny. And it sort of leads into, and somebody said to him, basically as a comment to that, I like eating toothpaste, which I think is a hilarious aside. But it definitely says that people in the world, I think, are seeking, and in this case too, some sense of control, right? People want to exert their control over everything. They want to exert their likes and dislikes and their ability to shut things down, which is the most disturbing thing. That the second something is not liked, it used to be where somebody didn't like something, well, they just didn't fucking like it. Or they told their friends and this and that. But now, people are trying to form coalitions to get things to go away. And this is just a television show. We're sort of using it as a lead-in. This is
It's like everything in the world has to be this huge, important movement.
Oh, my God. It's like everything has to be, oh, my God, somebody said a fucking thing, right? I didn't like that thing. And if I can just amplify and broadcast what that thing is, then I can rally everyone around me to hate this in the same exact way. And then maybe, because I didn't like that thing, I can get the entirety of whatever the thing is I don't like, be it the person, the product, the movie, the storyline, removed or changed. And that's really fucking disturbing. And that's what I feel like outrage culture has gotten to. I think that there was a point where, look, I've made things that are rebellious, I made a show about taking over student loan companies and, paying them back. And, I'm a big rebel. But I'm starting to realize that there's this pattern in the world where people can only be validated by hating things. And that's really disturbing to me. And what it does is it forces a militant type of personality, or it's fostered at the sort of ground level that can lead to real sort of extremism. Now, you're like, what the fuck is that connection? Right? That you're thinking that, aren't you, Austin? I'm just going to ask you from time to time what you're thinking. What are you thinking, Austin?
I'm thinking that you're right.
Amazing. So that's a first on the internet. Somebody thinks that I'm right. But moving on from that, so we're going to find something. In fact, we're expressing our outrage at Outrage Culture. So we're sort of participating. We're being a little hypocritical about it. But I find that Outrage Culture also sort of ties in to black and white thinking, right? In other words, like I was going to do a podcast on outrage culture and black and white, another one on black and white thinking, because I think they're both super interesting topics. But I have found that they're really directly correlated. Like if I didn't like something in a TV show, right? I would rather have them redo the entire thing, right? Because I didn't like that one thing. So either it's great or it sucks. It's great or it sucks. So I think that assigning that sort of like one-dimensional binary sort of attribute to something doesn't allow it to have all the other attributes that it has. I also find, and we're going to talk about something you like in a second, Austin, you'll be able to relate to. I also find that people, I totally lost my train of thought because I have this guy in the chat room trying to speak to me in Portuguese. so either I speak in binary terms, I speak in English or I speak in Portuguese. What a fucking strange place the internet is. It really is. It's like I didn't realize I was giving English lessons here. Yes, goodbye. Buenos dias, or I don't speak Portuguese. That's Spanish. I'm sorry. Just kidding. Ding. So you take like a thing on like one of the things you like, right? Wrestling, right? We know Austin's a big wrestling fan. Austin, tell us 5 seconds of why you like wrestling.
That'd be hard to quantify in 5 seconds.
Well, try.
I mean, I just
10
like
seconds. You got 10 seconds.
I just like the athletic. I like athletics in general, like bodybuilding and stuff like that, and wrestling does some of that. I like, just the acrobats of it, the characters. It's just all really interesting. I mean, it's a TV show with athletes.
That's
basically
fair. It's like a reality show with athletes, right? Would you call it that? It's a reality show with athletes.
It's not a reality because it's a work, but it's
Well, work. What do you mean by work? What do you mean?
Oh, I'm so bad for that. It's a wrestling term. So when something is a shoot, that means it's for real. When it's a work, it means it's part of the show.
That's fair. So work. That's it's probably a term that they coined because they didn't want to be associated with fiction. You know what I'm saying? But it's work is actually probably short for it's a work of fiction, which is hilarious that they would just call it a work. They just call it fiction because that's what it is. But they want to sort of create the idea of reality, right? So they're all sort of tied in. But in wrestling, it's a perfect example, right? You're either a good guy or you're a heel, right? So you're choosing sides. There's sides. There's teams. You're on team positive or you're on team negative, right? You take like Star Wars. You're either a good Jedi or a bad Jedi. Right? Like you're either a Sith or you're a Jedi, whatever the fuck they call it, like monk or master or plebe, whatever those things are. And I think that in those cases, you get no complexity whatsoever. Oh, it's called face and heels. I've been corrected.
It's a baby face.
Forgive me. You're a good guy's called a baby face. That's fucking hilarious. Let me tell you something. Some babies' faces are ugly and mean. So I don't think that term should apply, but that's what they use, so it's no problem. So, but in like Star Wars, like you're either a force of good or you're a force of evil. And that's why I said like that kind of black and white thinking, that kind of having to choose a side and every fucking topic that's out there is what's causing this outrage engine to run away. It's the fact that either I'm team, I don't want to use, like, I think abortion is a bad topic, so I'm not really going to touch it. But either and it's another case, I'm either team for or team against. People don't like Donald Trump. I'm either hate Donald Trump, think he's the worst thing ever, or I think he's the greatest thing that ever lived. You know, I either think Hillary Clinton was, a lock her up email scandal stealer of, young children's brains or whatever people think she did, or she's the greatest thing that's ever happened to women. And I think that, like, this is the kind of thing that's confusing me, and like that sort of choosing, right, is the thing that leads to outrage culture in my mind. I feel like people have to say, this is a black and white thing to me. This is a choice that I'm making, and once I make that choice, and it's a very dangerous choice, I feel that I will do anything I can on the internet, especially, and we'll talk about that in a little bit, to be a keyboard warrior, not actually do anything about it in the real world, but denounce those people according to a very specific set of criteria that I've already chosen in my brain. I mean, in my case, and I'd love to hear some examples from you, Austin, so please start using that, engine that you have in your brain, which is much greater than mine once you unleash it with your baby face point of view on the world. But in my case, like, I don't really, I'm not a fan of Donald Trump personally. If you like him, no problem. I'm not here to talk about politics. I don't like him. I think he's a bad guy. I think he's bad I think he's unstable, right? But do I think that Donald Trump is pure evil personified? I think I reserve that definition for, some fictional idea of the devil. Do I think that Donald Trump walks down the street and kicks little puppies? No, I really don't. I mean, I can make a joke about it, but I don't. So I think that there's probably things in his life, in sort of being intellectually honest about it, that he's really loving towards. I think there's probably things that he'll do in the next 2 years if he's still in office that are actually going to be beneficial for us. But somebody who lives in outrage culture can't see that, refuses to see it, has to see it in either pure evil or pure good. And I think that that's, like, stupid and dangerous. I feel like it doesn't allow for the other things to coexist at the same time. Do you know what I'm saying, Austin? And I think that we sort of, like, when you think of your friends, right? Do you describe your friends as he's the greatest guy in the world, or he's the worst piece of shit if he's not your friend? Do you have, like, layers that you assign in your brain to them? Like, in my case, and I'm asking you, but I'm going to go on for a second, I'll have friends that say some stupid shit, but overall they're a pretty good guy. You know what I'm saying? But I think that in outrage culture, if that person said some stupid shit, they would be like, oh my God, that person's a horrible human being, because they'd isolate that stupid shit. And I have an example that just happened to me, and say, like, that this stupid shit represents you because it fits my criteria, my narrative for what I want to be outraged about at the moment. Austin, I'm going to hand you the microphone, so feel free. Do you have any personal examples of friends that you have that are quite complex?
Sure. I mean, I think everybody has friends that, they have things that they don't like. And I think it's important, just with anything in the world, that you need to take a step back, and you don't need to really worry about what side am I on. You don't need to be on a side.
Yeah,
you just need to formulate an opinion that makes sense. Take the bad with the good. I mean, it's like, I love my family, but there are some family members that do things I don't like or annoy me in some way, but they're my family. You just take the bad with the good.
Right. So I think that what you said is perfect. You take the bad with the good, or you take the good with the bad. I mean, both are the same exact thing, right?
You just have to weigh it out. It's like, is this
right
overall
100%.
Bad, or is this overall 100%. Good?
So do you feel, though, you're saying you're saying the exact thing that sort of summarizes what I'm trying to communicate here is, you just have to weigh it out. You got to put it on a scale, and okay, it's like the idea of, like, what the idea of going to heaven is, right? Original idea of it. And I'm not assuming people believe or don't believe, but the idea of it is, you get to the fucking golden gates, or, I was going to say the golden arches, but I'm like, that's McDonald's. But you get to for some people, that is heaven. But you get to the golden gates, and they have, like, a checklist. It's like the Santa Claus fucking thing, the naughty or nice. In this moment, you were a piece of shit to your sister. 2 years later, you fed the homeless. And they do, like, a tally of you as a person, and they decide, should we let this person in the golden gates to heaven, or have they done more bad than good? You weigh it out. And I think you're absolutely right, but I think outrage culture doesn't weigh anything out. What do you think? I don't think it does. I think it just says, here's the thing that I want to isolate that I don't like, right? And sometimes it is a bad thing, and sometimes it needs to be called attention to, and some of that outrage is deserved. But Austin, don't you feel that some of that outrage is just trying to take things and simplify them and boil them down to a fucking one element, so that they're not weighed out, so that they're actually just judged upon that one or several things that fit their criteria?
Well, that's basically what it is. It's just taking a definite stance on something, which I think for some things could be fine and okay, right? Like, I mean, there's right and wrong situations. There is a right and wrong side on some things, right? But it's just like you were talking about the religion, the religion thing. It's like, I think I know lots of good people that are great people without it. I think just a good rule of thumb is just be a good person, be the best you can be, and then if it ends up that's what it is, you won't have to worry about it anyway.
But don't you think you could, like, I consider a good person somebody who tries to be a good person. But in the definition of tries to be a good person is you don't always succeed. Or you succeed and you don't always succeed in everybody's eyes, right?
Well, and you're not supposed to.
Right.
You just that's why you just do the best that you can and do the best with what you've got to work with and make the best decision you can with your instincts. And if it works out, that's great. If it doesn't, you learn something. But
how do you deal with, and then we're going to go to chat room in a second, how do you deal with the idea that because of the internet, that there's like a spotlight, that if somebody wants to spotlight you or the thing that you're doing and sort of isolate only part of that equation, because they want to be outraged to fit their thing, that has nothing to do with you. How does you, somebody that's trying to fit into the world, deal with those people when the outrage engine targets you or something you've done?
So, like, if you do something and then people start putting a spotlight on you and like, oh, this guy's a bad guy, I mean, they're not really taking into account all the great things you did before that.
Or after.
It's just something that you can't, or after. And it's just something that you just have to process properly for yourself, because a lot of those people, no matter what you say, how you say it, or what you tell them, it's just what they think of you, period.
Right.
Like, you know yourself and you know you. So it's like the way that I deal with it is it's like I know me and I know what I'm about. So I just try not to let those things affect me. And I don't try to let people entice me to take a side.
Yeah, I agree with that.
I always like to have all the information, It's like I want to know everything that I can know about both sides, and then I'll be somewhere in my own. Like, I'm not like, okay, I'm on your side or I'm on that side. It's like, well, I can understand both points of view, and sometimes, it's like, I don't agree with how this person feels, but it's not that big a deal.
Right.
I'm not outraged either way. I feel like I'm just very relaxed in that way, where I just can understand more or less why people think what they think, and I can understand that not everybody sees things the way that I see it, and it's just how it is.
Somebody in the chat room, Rapid, said, I wonder how much of this do you think is generational, seeing that we learn to assimilate the internet into our society, but the newer generation is born into the internet culture. I think the internet culture has exploded this. I think outrage culture, I don't think it was born in the internet, because, and look, I'm not saying that there aren't things in this world to be angry about. Not suggesting that at all. If you have something that you're passionate about, that you want to put your statement into the world, go ahead. You know what I'm saying? There's nothing wrong with that. What I'm talking about here is the trivialization of outrage. What I'm talking about here is outrage without complexity. You know what I'm saying? Outrage that doesn't leave any room for somebody to change or to grow, or doesn't weigh the entirety of their character or of the thing that they watch. I mean,
or condemns them for one mistake that everybody makes.
Right. I mean, we've talked about the the Mel Gibson thing in the past here on the podcast, and he had mentioned, I'll say it very quickly again, that he talks about it now, and he says, you're witnessing the worst possible moment that I've ever had, or the moments of it, and it's terrible that they're recorded, but there's nothing that I can do about it. And I'm not here to say you should think one thing or another about Mel Gibson. I don't care. I'm just saying that because of the megaphone of which we operate via the internet, we have boiled this person down to those moments. And maybe that person, I don't know him, but maybe the person that we're boiling down has spent the last 20 years helping children, who are starving or whatever, some cause that's amazing, and given all their wealth to somebody, or really been selfless, right? Because they made that one mistake, and the outrage engine has sort of run over them, they will be forever trapped in that because it fits somebody else's narrative to tell. I'm going to tell you, I'm going to go to chat room real quick and say OG Link says, Outrage Culture does this thing that I call pushing the donkey. They know the donkey will not move, yet they keep pushing the donkey, trying to get it to move. They just have to feel right, I guess, about pushing the donkey. I could see that. I think that there are several types of people that participate in outrage culture. There's the person that's actually outraged by something because it's wrong. There's a person that's outraged by something because it fits their criteria. And then there's the worst kind of outrage culture, is the person that is outraged because everybody else is outraged. And that fucker is the worst.
Details on what's happening.
Oh yeah, they're like I've seen people post things about Game of Thrones is a great example. Be like, oh my God, I had a friend of mine, and it's nothing wrong with what he did, but he's like, he posted a thing. He's like, what will happen on Monday? In the some line from the show, it says unsubscribe from HBO. And he was posting this thing even though he loved the show, because I think that there was something about him that wanted to participate in that moment of outrage, because it gets attention to sort of go with what everybody else is saying or thinking. Yeah, somebody, OG said in the chat room, follow me off this cliff. And what they don't realize is, even by joking about it, you're continuing to fuel this engine. Now, the people who made that show in particular were horrified that 1 million people signed a petition to have their season redone, when they spent probably 75 to 100 nights in 20-degree weather or 10-degree weather, whatever it was, killing themselves to make something to entertain you. You know what I'm saying? And we're beloved. But once that engine gets going, the internet is like this. It's like a meme. It never stops traveling. So I had something happen to me recently in regards to that show. It sort of fueled the topic of this week's podcast. And there's no names and there's no hate, and I don't want to continue to argue, but I'm just going to talk about it for a second, which was somebody posted about that show, of which I didn't love every bit of the show. I had some issue with this and that, but just because I had issue with it doesn't mean that I am outraged by the whole thing. And my person said something in a comment section of somebody else's thing. They said, well, should I watch the show from the beginning? And I said, yes, it's a masterpiece, because I think it is. I think fiction, I think through execution, this show was a masterpiece. That's my opinion, right? That's not a problem. And somebody came in that chat room who I knew for many years. He used to be, somebody I knew through my work and I had met in real life. And, I generally liked, but this person has gotten more extreme over the years, and which is totally fine. That's on them. I'm not outraged by the fact that they did that. And they immediately started to basically, internet-wise, yell at me for liking this thing. For how dare I post this thing? How dare I take the side of liking this thing because I'm okay with misogyny and rape and all these other attributes that they've assigned to the show. And I'm not saying that is in the show or not in the show. That's their interpretation of it. In my eyes, I didn't see it the same way, but that's fine. Or I saw it more of a much balanced picture, but I have a right to do that too. So they get extremely angry, and it's, you would say that because you're a man and blah, blah, blah. And then they start railing into me in a very aggressive way. Very aggressive way. In a way that's personalizing it towards me. And I said, listen, I think you're right. I basically said to them, I think you're writing your own narrative about me. You don't make assumptions. It's just like, because you love your mom, you must think you're this. And I'm like, whoa, slow your fucking roll. I mean, Austin, she started to insult me because I didn't agree with her version of the outrage engine. I didn't agree with what she was angry about. Now, mind you, this is 8 seasons of a show. We're talking about 85 to 100 hours of content. And there were key moments along the way that infuriated some people. Key moments that people would maybe, if they saw through a certain lens, and some people might be disgusted by that, what I'm saying, but if they saw through that lens,
that's just unfathomable to me.
They would hate it, and so they would throw away every other part of the 80 to 100 hours of content because they didn't like the decisions, because they wanted to have it written in a very particular way. And not only did they not like the decisions, but they would go after anybody that supported that show based upon those 10 decisions that the creators made. It's unfathomable to you. I interrupted you. Please go ahead, Austin. Why is it unfathomable?
I was just saying it's unfathomable to me that someone would take it so personally, something as minimal as a difference of opinion on like what entertains you and what you find to be acceptable as far as how that show ends. Because I have friends that, we talk about, stories in certain video games and stuff. And, Kingdom Hearts was one of the things, me and a few guys at work used to talk about. And, I like the direction of the story mostly, but of course there's some things that I would have done different. But, and then they say, well, I think it's fine. I think it's interesting. It's like, oh, well, that's fine. It's just
what happened to
I ever took personally.
What happened to the agree to disagree, right? I mean, what happened to that? Where did that go?
Probably you could even, honestly, I think the very best example, you could tie wrestling into this again, because nowadays it's a lot different than, back in the day when people didn't understand that, the winners are predetermined, or who's getting the push, or, things like that. There's a lot of outrage culture in wrestling right now. Like if one guy wins a match and there's one corner that's like, I can't believe this guy's got the belt, or I can't believe this guy went over on this guy. It's just ridiculous. And people I read these things all the time. I mean, after almost every pay-per-view, like, oh, I can't believe they beat this guy. I can't believe this guy's getting a push. Like, Roman Reigns was the center of a lot of this criticism for a long time, because he was becoming the company guy, the top bait. Like, he was basically taking John Cena's spot, because John Cena is getting phased out, because he's been wrestling for so long. He's had this long career. He's moving on to Hollywood, and Roman Reigns was kind of that guy they were putting in his place. And there was a lot of people that had outrage culture kind of things, that they don't think he deserves that spot,
right. So,
deserves
because
that push.
It's a sense of control, right? It's a mechanism of the internet, and I'm going to go to the chat room in a second. It's a mechanism of the people on the internet giving them the sense that they get to control everything that happens in the world. Everything. And if it doesn't go their fucking way, they're going to scream about it. Or if it features one thing that they don't like, the whole thing should be thrown away. That's fucking disturbing. I mean, you look at where politics is in America right now. I'm not taking a stand. Everybody knows how I feel about the Orange Man and all that shit. I don't hate you if you like him, but I just don't like him. But the part of that sentence that I put out there is, I don't hate you if you like him. In fact, I want to understand why you like him. But we've gotten to the point where we have two parties that are representing rather extreme points of views. It's either this or it's that. Where's the complexity? Where's the next person that's made some mistakes, like everybody, or mistakes that change, but is a level-headed fucking person? Why do we need to have, the idea of like an entirely socialistic point of view, which I'm not judging, or fuck everybody, including the rest of the world, bull in a china shop, literally. You know what I'm saying? I got to change everything. Everything is shit except my point of view. Tell it like it is, or don't say anything at all. And those both are disturbing. Where's the middle? What the fuck happened to the middle? And that's part of the outrage engine. That's part of the train that people make you get on. And when you don't get on, the thing that cracks me up, Austin, is that when you don't have an opinion on somebody's outrage engine, they get angry at you. They want you to sort of say, what do you mean you don't support that? What do you mean you feel both ways about something? How fucking dare you? And that changes per who's in the room with you. Mm-hmm. It's crazy. Like, and they yell,
especially about the more probably I would probably describe it emotionally fueled issues.
Right.
especially like things that are going on today.
Oh yeah. I mean, you take things like God, I'm afraid to talk about them. But you take things like, black people being killed by police officers or siding with police, and that's a very divisive
Well, and those things
issue.
are case by case basis.
Of course, they're complex. But the outrage engine doesn't allow for complexity. The outrage engine doesn't allow for. There are some bad police officers out there, and there needs to be more adjustment of the police officers. And there are
a lot of the more critical issues that we could touch on are things that, like you said, I would be afraid to discuss it too, because there's a chance that we could offend someone even in this chat room or somebody that listens to this podcast.
Yeah, I'm not here to offend. I'm here to discuss. I don't take a position. Like I said, some police officers are bad, but some police officers are under undue stress in horrible situations.
Well, and you and I have the ability to have those discussions, but some people feel so strongly about something, they've got this one way that they're going to see it.
There are people,
and that's it.
And I'll only have a sentence or two on this because I don't want to get fucking yelled at, right? There are people that feel like we shouldn't even be able to have this conversation because we're both white men. And that's disturbing. Where's the middle ground? Where's the, hey, guess what? I'm a white man. That's true. You're a white man. But I also happen to be a million other things. And don't throw away all those other things because I happen to be a white man as well. You know what I'm saying? I have a lot to offer that is inside my brain. I hope. Anyway, go to the chat room. Mr. Jen said, I don't watch Game of Thrones, but imagine having a show that is regarded well for 8 seasons. They have one bad episode and everyone out with pitchforks. I love the show Black Mirror. I don't enjoy every episode, but I'm just happy it exists. And that's the thing. It's like, I agree with you completely. What you're going to do by being outraged about fucking everything, you know what I'm saying? Even the dumbest shit. This person said a word that I didn't like. It doesn't fit my agenda or my narrative or what I think is wrong with the world, or it taps into a deep pain I have inside my heart. Therefore, everything about it is wrong. You do that enough, then every single thing out there will either be one of two things. It will be, homogenized and stripped out of any single element that could ever take any chance at all, that it's boring as fuck. Or it's the extreme other side that doesn't give a shit what you think. And that you see it in politics, right? It's either sensitive to the point of fault and hypocrisy, or it's disturbing in its inability to not shut the fuck up. And the outrage engine has caused that and is fueling that, and it's still going, and it's getting worse. Because people think that their opinions are godly. People like to put their own baggage into every opinion, and people like to isolate stupid shit and make mountains out of molehills in many cases. Even in that statement, Austin, somebody could take that statement. I can hear their thought process going while I'm speaking. I hear it. And what they're saying in their brain is, how dare he say that I make mountains out of molehills? How dare he?
Absolutely. And that's why, you and me and everybody else that streams and takes it seriously does not discuss these kinds of things.
Well, we do.
There's nothing productive.
Right, we do it behind closed doors, right? I don't give a shit. You don't like me, fuck you. You know what I'm saying? But I feel that way, but I also am like a complex guy. I'd probably be sad if you don't like me. I'd be like, why don't you like me? Can I help you? Can I buy you a cake or a cookie? So, but I also, because I want to be liked, but I don't want to be liked to the point where I feel pressure to either love something unanimously or hate it unanimously. And that's what the outrage engine does. The outrage engine has another train, by the way. The outrage engine is coupled with the fucking other car of that train, which is the absolute love engine. And people love to jump from car to car, too. I absolutely fucking love this. And then it's the biggest piece of shit on the planet Earth. In 2 seconds. Because we love to sort of see things fall. And I think that like the current sort of things on dude, it amazes me. Side note, it amazes me that people are so bent out of shape. People are so unhappy in this world that a television show has gotten to the point of like vehement anger. Not only where it went, but what it contained. People act like this one show, of which there are fucking thousands, is somehow got to be the perfect thing in every way, shape, or form. Ladies and gentlemen, there are no perfect things. It doesn't exist. And if you think it's perfect, there's somebody out there who's helping little kids right now, right? But they didn't speak to the children right. Or they didn't give the kids the meals that you thought were good for them, even though they were feeding them. Or maybe they told the kid they should go into one profession or the other because they showed an affinity and you shouldn't tell my child what to do. You can't fucking win. The outrage engine is designed for nobody to win. It's disturbing, dude. It's really disturbing. And I can't go on Facebook or on Twitter especially. Twitter is the outrage engine personified. I think of all the social media. Actually, I don't know. I think Twitter and Facebook are kind of interlocked. I think Facebook is just long-form outrage. I mean, I did a video called, it wasn't Outrage Engine, but like basically I don't give a shit about your causes. And it was just to mock it a little bit. Because I feel like my voice is meant to be a voice that's not in the middle, per se, but definitely not, I'm like a little bit of an observer in some ways. I'm a person that's measuring and weighing both sides. You know what I mean? And I think I'm not saying I'm the referee of life, but in the wrestling analogy of the baby faces, the good people, and the heels, I'm much more of the referee, you know what I'm saying? Or the commentator, right? So is the commentator a good or a bad guy, Austin, in your eyes, in wrestling?
Well, they have baby face and heel commentators.
Hilarious. So they've got balance on that side of the force as well. That's fucking hilarious.
Yeah,
but
there's pretty much always somebody that's like the baby face that, you know, like if the heel does something, the baby face commentator condemns it while the heel commentator says, well, I see why he would do that. This guy shouldn't have done that.
But at least conjoined, they represent a sort of middle, right? Or they represent two sides of the outrage. They black and white even outside. They're tapping into it. Sickjan in the chat room said Twitch was banning people who were saying there were only two genders, so people are pretty fearful. Apparently, I can't even say fearful because I'm afraid also to speak their mind. And you know, that's a scary moment for me. That's a scary moment because I think that even in my opinion, if there's two genders or not, it's inconsequential in this moment. I'll give my opinion for the record. I believe that if you're not hurting anybody and you want to be considered, or you feel like you are and you want me to address you with a certain pronoun or those kind of things, I will support that because I want to make people happy. But that's my point of view, right? But when somebody can't speak their mind on what's supposed to be a free platform, I'm also against that because platforms are supposed to be about discussion. And sometimes even hateful discussion. And I think that those kind of decisions can be very arbitrary and they can change a lot. But they're also they allow the outrage engine to get stronger, right? Because they're sort of defining in ways things to get outraged about. There's been too much outrage about this, therefore it has to go. But it's very particular what they're choosing too. So it's very scary. It's a very slippery slope, right? The definition of what to be mad at, you know? I mean, like you take me, right? I've made a lot of risque jokes. I probably made one in this podcast. I make them all the time. And you could dig up a ton of my past and be like, oh my God, he took that chance. He offended somebody. Oh my God, he's a fucking murderer. He's a monster. He's a misogynist. He's a rapist. Now, I've never hurt anybody in my whole life. At least I don't think so. But somebody could take something I said out of context, a joke, maybe a distasteful joke, or maybe a joke that at the time was not distasteful but has become distasteful over the years. Maybe it was distasteful at the time and I was saying it to be shocking. I don't know. But you could assign a value to that if you believe in your heart that all men are evil or men are rapists or men are this or men are, or whatever is going on in your brain. You could take that, you could dissect it, you could boil me down to it, and you could be outraged about it. But you wouldn't be telling the whole truth. You wouldn't see the tens of thousands of hours I've spent giving to people and choosing to be the best person that I could possibly try to be. But that's that kind of thing. I mean, the outrage engine doesn't discern. It doesn't care because it's a hard thing to talk about because in some cases, like I've said this several times in this podcast, In some cases, outrage is necessary. If somebody's killing children, and we've mentioned children a lot, or somebody's being awful to one group of people, well, then people should be fucking outraged. You know what I'm saying? If somebody's being hurt or something's going towards a very negative place, okay, get angry. But don't get angry at it because other people are angry at it. Get angry at it because it's something that you think is wrong. And then don't get angry at other people if they disagree with you. You know, you have that anger. You don't have to infect everybody with that outrage. Now, you take video games, and we've seen this a lot recently, or movies or TV. There are things that people don't like about something, and they condemn the whole fucking thing. And they demand that the people at the studio get fired. I mean, these are people sitting on their fucking couches. You know what kills me, Austin? People who haven't even played the game, or sometimes read the book, don't like the idea of it, or the idea of what their friend told them about it, and they go on a mission to destroy it. Like, how disturbing is that? You know what I'm saying? Like, the Game of Thrones cast, like I said, they were horrified. They worked so goddamn hard, and that's what they have to deal with? That's the reward we give to people who put themselves on the line and try to do stuff? You know what I'm saying? Is we get on a fucking... The people get on the internet get outraged. Oh, Oreos didn't have a new flavor that I used to like. They're not bringing back the McRib at McDonald's. Therefore, boycott McDonald's, put fucking 10,000 people out of work. Like, that's what a 12-year-old would do. And so there are people on this train, this outrage engine, that are 12, and there are some people that are 45. How scary is that, dude? That we're all becoming, through the internet, extremists of opinion.
It is... I don't even know how to describe it. To be perfectly honest with you, it's hard for me to understand because I don't relate. So it's really hard for me to try to understand it on the same level as like other people that do that.
Well, it's like, you know, you take the, you weren't around as much for like the Rodney King thing where he got beaten up. It was horrible what they did to him. This is my opinion. You know, I saw it. I was like, oh my God, that's horrible. And they were cleared of these things, and I disagreed with it. And riots, and many people were killed, and an entire city was almost burnt down. I'm not judging the outrage on that. That's a thing to actually be outraged about, was many years of abuse by a police department and a lot of corruption, and that's fact, all of that. But even when the city was burning down, you know, Rodney King came on the air and was like, can't we all just get along? Because even he realized that the destruction that was happening was just collateral damage that maybe wasn't good, you know? And so the internet, it's the same thing. It's like, can we all just figure out a way to get along? And we had a podcast last week about being divided, you know? But this is more so like, but if in our everyday lives, if we practice revving up this outrage engine over meaningless, stupid shit, you know what I'm saying? Then when it's time for people to actually be angry at something, that they, instead of actually having the cause that they're trying to fight that's very meaningful to them, they trivialize that by being angry about everything. It's like the boy who called Outrage wolf. You know what I'm saying? Like, how can we get revved up all the fucking time if on Tuesday you're going on about how they're now putting non-dairy fucking creamer in these new coffees that you liked?
And have you noticed, too, that a lot of these things are, like, temporary? And then you never hear about them again.
Absolutely. And then they're on to the next fucking thing. 2 days later. Be mad about this. Be mad about that. Hey, what do you mean you're not mad about this? Aren't you my friend? Listen, asshole, I don't have to fucking be mad about it to be your friend. I can disagree with you. I got people, friends of mine, that, I love Trump and da-da-da-da. I fucking can't stand him. But that doesn't mean that I take that one bit of my friend's personality and say all of him represents that. I have friends who have been racist on all sides of the coin. And we're not just talking about a white guy who hates black people. Every fucking angle you can imagine, I've encountered racism and heard their opinion about other races, be it Latinos on other cultures or Asians on other cultures. I mean, it's been every direction, or prejudice, or whatever the fuck you want to call it. And do I then say, hey, I may, at that moment, I say, hey, listen, I don't agree with what you're saying here. And I have an opportunity to disagree with them because I want to hopefully impact some sort of positive change on them. But I feel like there are moments where people would tell me that if they knew I was friends with somebody who felt that way, I shouldn't be friends with them. But there's 98% of their personality is totally redeeming qualities. And maybe they can be educated out of those 2% over time. But we just want to throw everybody away who doesn't feel as angry about the things that we feel in the same way that we feel them. And it's stupid. We don't create allies like that. Like that woman who came to my fucking profile and she just shit on me. Or not my profile, that opinion of mine, and shit on me. And then shit on me again. And I was like, listen, it's like, you're being awful. There's just no reason to be awful. I'm sorry that you think that because I like a show that you think represents all these horrible things that maybe have happened to you, that you're boiling me down to this, that I'm an uneducated mess and I'm a moron and I must just say this because one part of me is a white man, and you're just distilling me down to something very basic so that you can have your opinion. And you've basically taken what could have been an ally in a fight that we both agree upon, which in that case is the empowerment and the betterment of women. And not just because I love my mother, but because I believe in the empowerment and betterment of women in our society and the more mutual respect deserved to them. And you've shut out an ally because your outrage train was running way faster than mine. You know, I'm angry about it too. I'm just not angry in the same way. I don't have to be angry in the same way. Don't force me to be angry in the same way. Because it's my right to not be angry in the same way because I have my own brain. You know? Starburst in the chat room said, opinions are like assholes. Everybody's got them. You know, people also include elbows in those too, by the way. No, absolutely. But the problem with the internet is it's become the mob. It's a popular mob, right? The mob likes to take over. I mean, I could open up Facebook right now. In fact, I'm going to click over just for a second. So I have not rehearsed this. I'm just going through my social feed just for 2 seconds to see if something pops up. You know, and what I see is opinion. I'm 3 down. Somebody mentioned Sandy Hook. You know what I'm saying? Dude, here's the thing about a plus-size model owning her curves. You know, it's basically what that is it's a way to fight back about outrage about people who are not accepted for being heavy. I mean, every single thing here is very pointed that I'm reading. You know, somebody wants donations to Planned Parenthood. I mean, at least that's proactive. You know, somebody about lazy employees. I mean, dude, it's like every fucking other post is a highly, highly, highly pointed opinion or a sharing of somebody else's opinion to get you onto a thought train.
In this technological age, this is a discussion I had with one of my best friends. It's been a few months ago. It's like everything that happens is like recorded now. Like whenever I was a lot younger, and like when he's a little bit older than me, like 3 or 4 years older than me. And we were talking, he was like, thank God when I was growing up and I was in high school that all the stupid things I done was not recorded. And like he has no technological footprint.
But how terrible is that? And really quickly to update the topic for the chat room, we're talking about outrage culture, how people get mad over fucking everything. And somebody from Amsterdam, Nathan, said hello from New York, and from Kentucky, from Austin. But you think, how sad is that?
It's like if you, like, for example, like if you go
sad.
And get drunk at a party or something and you're like doing something stupid, like, you know, that's going to be recorded and put out there for everyone to see.
Oh,
and
absolutely.
It was like, and maybe you just had a moment where, you know, maybe you didn't do anything wrong, but like you embarrassed yourself and now it's out there permanently.
Or you were expected in a situation because you didn't know any better. You're drunk and you're too aggressive, maybe verbally. I'm not saying physically, with somebody, be it male or female. And now if that's recorded, you can't have made that mistake and learn from it.
Well, and that's actually a rule that we have. Like when we get together, like all of us get together and we're drinking, having a good time. It's like, no, do not record anything that happens here. And we're not doing anything illegal or crazy, insane. You know, it's just like, don't record people and like post things of people that.
But why is it? So I listen. I have no problem with things being recorded in a way that I'm sort of owning the fact that, like, it's a shame that we're so afraid of somebody fucking getting on the outrage engine about us, about something we did or said or this
They
and that.
could see it and take it out a different way and not have any context.
To recontextualize what you're doing to fit their own narrative. That's a fucking scary thing. And I'm in the arts, so everything I say could be judged, right? And I feel even pressure, Austin, to be more outrageous. You know, to make things, to say salacious shit, to put clickbait titles, to get people to take a side. You know, AMD's coming out with new processors. Intel's dead, rest in peace. How many times do people use the word rest in peace? This is coming out. That's dead. Bye. Peace out. Rest in peace. That's popular. It's a popular thing to say shitty things about other things. It's a popular thing to crown the new king and get rid of the old. It's scary to me. It's fucking scary. As opposed to, you know, oh, this thing's coming out. Well, I really love the other thing. I hope this thing is better. I hope I enjoy it more. It's fair to be like, oh, the old Star Trek sucks and the new Star Trek is good. How about the old Star Trek had a lot of value too? You know? Or how about saying I'm not a fan of? But we have to take these points of view because the only way people will pay attention to us is if we take a strong point of view. Now, look, I'm known for having a point of view. I made a video called I Love Children, but I Hate Your Kids. I do, actually. I hate your kids. Yeah, and it was a video more about bad parents. But that doesn't mean that I hate all kids. I just hate your kids. No, I'm just kidding. But my point is that most people thought it was a joke. They found it funny. They got the meaning. It was really about bad parents. It wasn't about children. But then somebody comes in a thread like, you don't know what it's like to be a mother and blah, 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 and blah, blah, blah. I can't believe you made this video. Basically saying you're a piece of shit. You don't know what I'm going through. Which is totally fine. But what she wanted to do was basically get people to rally around and dislike what I was doing, as opposed to just stating her own opinion. And then I made another video about how much I love my mother and I love and having fun with kids. Like, I'm a complex person. I'm allowed to be a complex person. It's a good thing to be a complex person. You know what I'm saying? That doesn't mean that I shouldn't be held accountable for things that I do. I just think that the way the internet holds everything accountable has just become a fucking joke. And it's sad that people don't want to meet in the middle on things. That people feel like they have to take a point of view because it defines them. Because if they don't take the point of view that their friends take, they'll be unpopular with them. How about if all my friends think one thing and that it's okay that I think another? Right? I mean, Austin, isn't it okay that you and I disagree on things? I think it's great. I think we're two different people. Shouldn't we disagree?
Sure. I mean, I don't think it's a big deal.
Yeah, it's good. Because we have two different fucking brains. Maybe we'll find the meaning in the middle. But with the outrage culture, it sort of forces you into a box. And that's how we got to where we are in politics. Because everybody's only friends online with those people that agree with them. That they're running on two different trains that are going two different directions of outrage. As opposed to being in the middle where they should be with the rest of the people, trying to figure things out to make it better for both sides. That's what the outrage engine has done. So be it Game of Thrones, some video game that people don't like, some politician that people don't like, what the Middle East should do about Jerusalem, or any other large variety of topics. Instead of searching for an answer, we're all choosing sides. And that's why the outrage engine, although seems trivial at times, it's led to this type of black and white thinking, this type of side choosing, that is ruining the world. And it is the fault of the platform, only partially. The platform has just given us the ability to use it as a weapon. So I think that in that case, maybe we're all more at fault. You know? Maybe it's in the desire to get likes, we say and do things that we think other people will like. It's a herd mentality. And when that herd harms people, then maybe the platform wasn't such a good idea in the first place. Oh, so anyway, I got caught up in my little, you know me, I fucking diatribe. I go on about shit. But if somebody disagrees with me, that's okay. Because maybe they'll make a point that'll make me think, and then 2 seconds later, that sentence that I just said, I will go back on in my own brain. I don't need somebody to take this recording and say, hey, I'm outraged that he said blah. When 2 sentences later, I changed my fucking mind. Or how about if I did something to somebody at some point in my life, and I regret that? In my own brain, I regret it. And maybe I even apologize to them. Maybe. But then something happens, the outrage engine gets a hold of you, and then you owe everybody an apology. I don't owe everybody an apology. I owe the person I did this to an apology. if I did something that I felt was wrong and they felt were wrong. Or maybe I'll just apologize to be nice. Or because they got their feelings hurt. You know what I'm saying? I don't understand. I don't understand. I don't understand what's wrong with this, with our culture right now. I don't understand why how it became popular to be mad all the fucking time over everything. Are we that spoiled? What do you think, Austin?
I don't know. I really don't know like what it is necessarily, or like what I could pinpoint it on, but it just seems like some kind of weird culture shift where I guess it's just a thing to do.
Do you think it makes people feel important? And somebody in the chat room, by the way, said, "Are you Tony Hawk's brother?" Which I think is hilarious. No, but I once played a video game that he made. I think what'd you say, bro? I got distracted by the Tony Hawk question. That's hilarious. I'm outraged that you would say I'm Tony Hawk's brother. I'm not outraged. I don't give a shit. What'd you say, Austin, before that? I lost my train of thought. It's hard to think of this much shit. Look, I understand. Sometimes outrage is necessary, like I've said many times in this podcast, and sometimes sharing that is necessary, and sometimes leveraging it to get other people to believe in the fact that the outrage is over a real thing that needs to be dealt with. And I understand the need to get the support behind that. But what I don't understand is when people who have felt a certain pain by something that has made them angry feel the need to make you feel that pain as well. Especially if you disagree with them. That's a disturbing thing. I've had conversations where people say, well, too bad you're uncomfortable in this conversation. Because I feel uncomfortable all the time. And that's fine. That's a very common sort of way to think about discussion these days. But all these people do is they turn away people who actually might agree with their outrage. That if given this sort of way to access it in a relatable way, could become an ally. And the outrage engine is just... sometimes the outrage engine is to recruit more people, and sometimes it's just to wag their fucking fists and be self-righteous and be dicks about it. You don't have to be a dick about being outraged. I think that's a pretty good statement. When you say, Austin, just don't be a dick, and maybe your outrage will find more people who share the same common vision.
Well, and like you said, sometimes it's necessary, right? Because there are things in this world that there is a right and a wrong side. Mm-hmm. Like there are some things that happen that's just outright it's just wrong.
It's clear.
Morally, ethically.
Yeah, like, absolutely. You know. And I think that, but forcing me to choose over which fucking, and be angry about which flavor Haagen-Dazs chose, or the fact that Haagen-Dazs chose to make an LGBT flavor, that's fucking stupid. Why does it bother you? That's the thing I ask on these things. Like, why are you so bothered about this? Or why are you following the bandwagon on this? That make no sense. You know what I'm saying? I'm going to go to the chat room for a second. And somebody said, who asked me about Tony Hawk, he says, I apologize as you are clearly outraged. Please do not notify my employer. I agree with what you're saying here. I think it's stupid. Just because you have an opinion on something doesn't mean you should be fired. But if you're a dirty, filthy piece of shit racist who's spreading hate-mongering message over and over and over, not once, maybe your employer should know who's actually working at their office. Unfeeling Scientist said, this is exactly how I feel about rich people. I want to take all their wealth from them and force them to work brutal, soul-crushing manual labor jobs for a greedy boss because this is what I had to go through. And I don't feel the least bit bad about it. You and me both sometimes, brother. I completely understand that. But, and I have nothing against people who have earned their wealth. I really don't. And I believe in a capitalistic system with good social practices. I believe in something that's a good mixture of the two because it helps people who need help, but it also gives incentive to those that want to work hard. There, I've said my political fucking beliefs. But if somebody inherits all their fucking money and has never done shit with their life, and is a dick about it too, those people should be doing manual labor for the rest of their lives. Hard man, they should be working at McDonald's and being yelled at in the inner city. Absolutely. That's my opinion. But I'm not going to be mad if people don't jump on the train of that fucking guy should work at an inner city McDonald's for the rest of his life because he's never done jack shit and he's an asshole. I'm not going to be mad at you for not getting on that fucking outrage engine with me. That's my engine. That's my train to take. So that's the problem is that people are like, oh, get on my fucking train. Or I'm outraged that you won't be outraged with me. That's a tequila, right, Austin? I'm outraged that you won't be outraged with me. The fuck is that? That's ludicrous, but that's what happens. Or I'm outraged that you're not outraged too. That's the stupidest shit I've ever fucking heard.
That's pretty much why I always, and I've even done it a few times on this podcast. I say, I'm not talking about that.
There you go.
Because if nobody knows what side you're on, then they can't really be mad.
But how sad is that? That you feel like you have to not be able to state your opinion because the two sides or three sides or whatever will get angry at you and not accept you for that opinion.
Well, and I think too that my opinion doesn't really matter anyway. So
that's very humble of you. That's very humble of you. I wish more people were as humble as you. I really do. Because
that's just the way that I feel. It's like what does it matter what I think about it?
Well, that goes down
anything.
to we're all fucking special, right? And I think there's a lot of it out there. Listen, I'm part of the special crowd. I'm doing a podcast. I guess I'm fucking special. But the older I get, the more I do this, the less special I feel. I'm just me. You know what I'm saying? I don't feel special anymore. And I think the special thing is like, well, I'm special. My opinion matters, and you should agree with the opinion that I have. And so what you always get is, that's why people like to troll, right? People love to come in and like be like, you're talking about something specific. I'm going to go the opposite way because it gets me attention. There's too many people who like this thing. I must hate it. There's too many people who hate this thing. I must love it. That's so disturbing as opposed to like what you think. That gets lost in the mix, right? You're not allowed to like things. What if you like, I both love fucking Luke Skywalker. And by the way, I kind of love Jabba the Hutt. You can't like both those things. You have to either love Luke Skywalker or Jabba the Hutt in that moment. Nah. I kind of want to eat myself to death like Jabba and have a little slave Leia. Not trying to be sexist, just making jokes. And it's like me stepping in it and be like, did I step in something? Rest in peace, Carrie Fisher. But I also want to be Luke Skywalker. Self-righteous and just wave at people and tell them what to do, which seems kind of elitist. Don't you think?
Probably a little.
I don't know where I was going with any of that. I'm just putting fucking words together. I'm wording. I'm smithing. Wordsmithing. Anyway, so what's my closing thought? Austin, do you have any closing thoughts on the people who get outraged over fucking anything and everything?
All I can really say is I hope that more people decide to maybe try to take a stance, that's like try your very, very best to see things from both points of view, even if you don't understand it. Like, if you don't understand it, just take it for what it is and walk away. And just understand that, not everybody sees things the same way. And that's, honestly, it's not a bad thing. It's a good thing, as DDP used to say.
Agreed.
That's completely. Not a bad thing. That's a good thing.
Agree completely. And for me, I'll say, try to look at things as well with complexity. Like you take a show, shows that we love, have complex characters, and they sometimes they have good characteristics that go bad, but we don't hate them for it as long as they wind up good or whichever way we want to be. They switch in the middle of the thing, and if you're using that character in a show to define your own narrative in life because it either reinforces or goes against your point of view, then maybe you should check your own priorities as far as it's a fucking show. You know what I'm saying? And you don't need to imprint every single thing that's going on in the universe with your own narrative. It's just not necessary. It's just a conversation starter. It's not an absolute telling of what's right and wrong in the world. It's fiction. If you look at, there's complexity everywhere. Mike Tyson hurt people for a living, but he loved pigeons. And now that Mike Tyson has gotten older, most people see him as a loving, caring person, but some people see him as a monster. And he's neither loving nor a monster. He's just Mike Tyson. He's complex, like all of us trying to figure this whole thing out. And I think that you just give people leeway, give things leeway. Get angry, but allow complexity, Don't simplify everything. Don't make everybody pick a side just because you want them to be on your side. Don't jump on bandwagons because it's popular to be pissed off at something. Recognize there are consequences for amplifying your anger at the entire world. You know, it doesn't go unnoticed that everybody and their mother didn't like a thing. Things get canceled. People get hurt because of your faux outrage. So when you're angry about something, be very careful about how you express that anger. And if you're not angry about something and you see it as complex, voice a complex opinion and don't be afraid of the consequences.